clones of God of War that you must check out. The God of War is one of the most iconic action adventures ever since its release in 2005. Every installment of the God of War series has received favorable reviews. With the release of God of War in 2018, the series was praised for refreshing its aesthetic, which was required because the genre had become oversaturated with the abundance of knockoffs to the original game. But not all clone games are bad. Here are the 10 best clones of God of War games that are worth your time. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
You've got to save me! You must save me!
Starting off our list, Dantes Inferno. Action-adventure game Dantes Inferno was created by Visceral Games and released by Electronic Arts in 2010. The first canticle of Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, Inferno serves as a vague inspiration for the game's narrative. The battle of a man to save the woman he is in love with is the main topic of Dantes Inferno. After becoming sick of battle, young crusader Dante travels to Florence to be with his fiancée Beatrice. When he arrives, Beatrice is already dead outside of his destroyed house. To make matters worse, as he gets closer, Lucifer appears and abducts her spirit, dragging it into the depths of hell while she wails. Dante follows them across the circles of hell in an effort to save his love before she is lost forever. He must face his own sins and wrongdoings before a final encounter with a fallen angel. In the game, Dante is controlled by the user from a third-person viewpoint. Souls, the currency of the game, can be obtained by beating foes, which may be used to unlock a variety of attack combos and powers. The tale is ingeniously portrayed with a combination of in-game cutscenes, CG movies for dramatic storyline points, and animation segments, particularly for the demonstration of personal misdeeds. Any action game needs to have combat, and Dantes Inferno is no exception. His weapon of choice is a scythe, which he can employ in a variety of combo strikes and finishing techniques. He may use the power of the cross in addition to his scythe as a ranged weapon to keep enemies at a distance. The game generally received favorable reviews from critics upon its release and was a commercial success. In order to produce a unique action title, Dantes Inferno takes a daring, aesthetically stunning approach to a well-known literary work. With its vivid and sophisticated portrayal of hell, Dantes Inferno's graphical design distinguishes itself from other video games. The criticism it drew was because of its similarity to God of War. Bayonetta. Action-adventure game Bayonetta was created by Platinum Games and released by Sega in 2009. Vigrid, a made-up European city, serves as the setting for Bayonetta. The main character is a witch that summons demons to fight her enemies, shapeshifts, wields a variety of weapons, and performs magical assaults with her hair. She wakes up after half a millennium of slumber in an unknown location with no recollection of who or what she ever was. She slowly starts to recall what led to her current situation. The Umbra Witches, who are supporters of darkness, and their opposites, the Lumen Sages, who are supporters of light, were two factions guarding the balance between darkness and light in the world 500 years before the incident that resulted in Bayonetta's memory loss. The eyes of the world, which they used to monitor the fair passage of time, were two different jewels that the factions shared. Both groups unexpectedly vanished from Vigrid for no apparent reason. The little red stone in an elaborate piece of jewelry that Bayonetta wears in what she thinks to be the left eye of the world. She periodically has memories while looking for the right eye of the world that reminds her of what occurred. The many locations Bayonetta lives in are based on the Paradiso from Dante's Divine Comedy. These settings often take the shape of a beautiful yellow or golden meadow or castle and are where Bayonetta encounters her angel foes. Purgatorio, a meta realm that sits next to but apart from the plane in which humans reside, serves as an in-between for supernatural creatures. The infernal creatures that Bayonetta conjures in battle by using her hair as a medium are found in Inferno, a location that is not explored in the game. In general, critics praised the title character of the game and the graphical presentation, although the game was criticized for its sluggish loading time and slowdown. Its combat experience remains unparalleled. The game managed to sell more than 100,000 copies on the very first day it was released in Japan.
You will know pain. My Gabriel.
Castlevania Lords of Shadow. On October 5, 2010, Konami released the action-adventure video game Castlevania Lords of Shadow, which was created by Mercury Steam and Kojima Productions. Lords of Shadow takes place in the year 1047 during the time of the End of Days. An evil power known as the Lords of Shadow has jeopardized the Earth's relationship with the heavens. The dead spirits cannot depart because of a sinister curse, and demonic beings roam the dying country and assault the living. Enter Gabriel Belmont, the protagonist, a member of the Brotherhood of Light, an exclusive band of holy knights that guards and stands up for the weak against supernatural beings. One of them cruelly murdered Gabriel's wife Marie, and her soul is now stuck in limbo because of the curse. She understands what is at stake since she is now neither living nor dead, and directs Gabriel to his fate to protect the world. As he looks into the black spell, as he moves across the damaged area, he encounters many people, including Zobek, the oldest surviving member of his organization. The narrative revolves around two masks known as the God and Devil masks, with the God mask possessing the ability to raise the dead. In order to get the components of the God mask and bring his dead wife back, Gabriel must vanquish the three Lords of Shadow groups. The Warfare Cross, a retractable chain whip, is used during combat. Up to 40 unlocking combinations are possible for the player to use with it. Additionally, the light and shadow magic systems, which are spells geared toward protection and aggressiveness, may be coupled with the melee abilities of the Combat Cross. Lords of Shadow was listed on various lists of the most anticipated video games while it was still in production. Video game publications gave the game favorable reviews, and the game was a commercial success as well upon its release. It received appreciation for the fresh aspects it brought to the franchise, with particular attention paid to the game's plot, combat, graphics, soundtrack, and artistic direction. With the unparalleled success of the game, Konami asked the development team to create further Lords of Shadow related games. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance was released in 2013 and was co-created by Platinum Games and Kojima Productions. Metal Gear Rising takes place in the year 2018, a little less 5 years after the events of Metal Gear Solid 4. Private military companies, or PMCs, who were formerly the world's dominant shadow organization in charge of the war economy, have been shattered into several groups. When the nanomachine technology controlled by the Patriots that control the troops' power is eliminated, PMCs switch to cutting-edge cyborg technology, building formidable superhuman warriors. Raiden, a former child soldier who was transformed into a cyborg and now works for PMC Maverick Security Consulting Inc., is the character that the player controls. In addition to his Maverick teammates, Wilhelm Dr. Voigt and Kevin Washington, Raiden also has the help of Courtney Collins, a computer specialist, and Boris Popov, a military advisor. Sonny Emmerich, a young prodigy and buddy of Raiden who works at Solid Space and Aeronautics, is back from Metal Gear Solid 4. The primary adversaries of the game are PMC Desperado Enforcement LLC. Desperado seeks to create instability and maintain conflict in order to profit from the economic benefits and technical breakthroughs of the war economy. A chat between Jetstream Sam, a Desperado agent, and Raiden early on had an impact on Raiden. Jetstream Sam is a rival of Raiden. Sam is a member of the Winds of Destruction, a group of Desperado cyborg killers. Rising is an action-oriented game that emphasizes sword combat and a complex cutting system to battle and destroy foes, in contrast to other games in the Metal Gear series where players aim to avoid being seen by enemies. Raiden's high-frequency blade is his primary weapon, although he is not limited to using it. He may also employ different replacement blades, sub-weapons, or secondary weapons. In order to make the game more playable, aspects of the environment were purposefully restricted to buildings like pillars and walls. However, virtually any object in the game, including vehicles and opponents, may be cut into pieces. Upon its global release in February 2013, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance received positive reviews from critics. Its cutting system and use of Metal Gear elements to support the narrative despite the game's emphasis on action, soundtrack, and boss fights were praised. At the same time, its camera mechanics and the brief length of the story mode received some heavy criticism. With more than 1.2 million copies being sold, the game also saw excellent sales figures. Darksiders. The hack-and-slash action-adventure video game Darksiders was created by Vigil Games and released by THQ. The Battle of Armageddon and the apocalypse portrayed in the Book of Revelation in the Bible serve as the basis for the game. The development of the game involved almost equal amounts of time for puzzles and combat. One of the four fabled horsemen of the apocalypse, War, is the character that the player assumes. The Charred Council has determined War to be responsible for the recent premature apocalypse that resulted in the destruction of the Earth. Sentenced to destruction, War strikes a bargain to be transported back to Earth to ascertain who was responsible for the disaster, albeit while restrained to the Watcher. After 100 years, Earth is no longer much like the world we know, caught in an endless battle between angels and devils. War must discover where the other riders are and who tricked them into beginning the ultimate fight, because he has lost a lot of his power, including control of his horse, Ruin. Along with having Ruin back, War also receives power back at certain points throughout the game. War's ability to visit places of the world that would otherwise be off-limits to him depends on his ability to reclaim his abilities and his mount. As War battles, a wrath meter fills up, opening the door to powered up and special techniques. The action occurs both above ground, where free movement is permitted, and beneath, where riddles play a significant part. In order to create a game with engaging combat, gratifying exploration, and a satisfying progression as you discover new objects and skills, Vigil expertly integrated popular gameplay concepts and puzzle components from a range of other games. The game generally garnered extremely positive reviews. Reviewers praised Darksiders' tempo, enjoyable gameplay, diversity of weapons and objects, art style, and brilliant use of color despite the post-apocalyptic backdrop. Heavenly Sword. Heavenly Sword is a 2007 action-adventure game developed by Ninja Theory and released by Sony Computer Entertainment exclusively for the PS3. The game's narrative and mythology center on the eponymous Heavenly Sword, which is supposed to have been used by an unknown heavenly god to defeat the Raven Lord, a demonic warlord. After the fight, the sword was abandoned in the mortal world and the Raven Lord was vanquished, where it became the focus of conflicts over its power. Due to the combat, the blade developed a thirst for its owner's lives, which led to their quick deaths. Finally, a warrior tribe acquired control of the sword, putting a stop to the conflicts and promising to keep it secure and unused for the benefit of everybody. According to a myth among the tribe, the original user of the sword would be reincarnated in the year of the Fire Horse, and this person would bring the world's dispersed tribes together and establish peace. Nariko, a brazen red head, who was born in the year of the foretold divine warrior, serves as the game's primary character and narrator. Because she is a woman, her clan views her as a parody of the foretold divine warrior and a sign of impending catastrophe. King Bohan, a tyrant monarch who is out to subjugate the world's tribes and usher in a new golden era, serves as the game's primary enemy. In addition to controlling Nariko, Kai is a supporting character in several game actions. Many of Kai's levels are sniper missions where she uses her crossbow to kill adversaries and occasionally to defend others. While Kai cannot engage in hand-to-hand combat, she can hop over obstacles and momentarily shock enemies to escape their grip on levels that require exploration. The gameplay has elements of a martial arts game with a melee emphasis and room for ranged assaults. The Heavenly Sword, a weapon used by the game's main protagonist Nariko, can take on 3 different forms based on the player's choice of attack position. With the sword appearing as 2 independent blades, the speed stance strikes a balance between speed and damage. Rapid, long-range, but inferior strikes are possible using the range stance, which uses a sword with 2 linked blades. The most potent but also the slowest stance uses a single massive 2-handed blade of the sword to make assaults. By May 2008, Heavenly Sword had sold over 1 million copies. The battle mechanism and aesthetics of the game received accolades. From beginning to end, the game is excellent. Just that it isn't any longer is a shame. However, expert players will likely complete the game in a little over 6 hours, and it probably won't take anyone else longer than 8 hours. The developer made the prudent choice to keep the action compact by excluding any fetch quests or backtracking. Enslaved Odyssey to the West. Enslaved Odyssey to the West was created by Ninja Theory and distributed by Namco Bandai Games. Enslaved is a narrative set 150 years in the future when a worldwide war has wrecked the Earth, eliminating most of the human species and leaving the globe to be hunted by robots left over from the battle known as mechs. Despite being from a bygone age, they are still acting in accordance with their training and aim to exterminate all hostiles. In this instance, humankind. Monkey, the main character, awakens in a confinement cage on a slave ship where he escapes and unintentionally causes the ship to collapse in the game's opening scene. He approaches a lady by the name of Trip, attempting to flee the ship using an escape pod, but ejects the pod before he can get inside. After falling and regaining consciousness, he sees that she has given him a slave headband, forcing him to obey her commands, and that if she dies, Monkey also perishes. Trip tells him that she requires his assistance to travel 300 kilometers back to her village. Monkey gets upset, but eventually gives in after realizing that he has no other option. The player character of Monkey must overcome obstacles by employing various combat techniques and platforming abilities. Monkey fights with a stick that serves as both a close-quarters weapon and a long-range projectile weapon. The staff carries 2 different kinds of long-range power cylinder ammunition, orange cylinders for blast damage and blue for stunning enemies. Monkey may also use the same attack by standing still while charging his staff. Numerous mechs can be found as opponents for players. Some mechs have weaponry on board. When they have low health, Monkey can finish them by hurling an explosive foe towards other battle mechs or pulling the cannon off a turret. The critics praised the game's characterization and plot for skillfully fusing many aspects, including humor, sadness, and action. The fighting in the game was praised for being straightforward and enjoyable. In terms of sales, it had a mediocre commercial success, selling 800,000 copies worldwide. X-Men Origins Wolverine. The game was launched in 2009 and was created by Raven Software on the Unreal Engine platform. The game is set before the events of the movies, and it starts in Angola during the final mission of Team X. The team, led by Stryker, comes across a village where the villagers do not comply with them. Despite Logan's best efforts, the team massacres the village after subduing Logan. 3 years after the team's dismantling, Logan settled in Canada with his girlfriend Kayla when Creed battles him in a bar and emerges victorious. Logan is rendered senseless as Creed fractures his bone claws. When Logan wakes up, Kayla is already dead. When Stryker arrives, he informs Logan that Creed is murdering his old teammates as payback for dismissing him. By using a process to attach the unbreakable adamantium metal to his bones, he grants Logan a shot at getting his vengeance. Logan agrees, but as the operation closes, he overhears Stryker ordering Logan to be eliminated. He storms out of the facility, murdering several of Stryker's soldiers who try to stop him, and pledges to kill both Stryker and Creed. Logan tries to gather intel from his former team members and comes across one of them named Fred Dukes, who tells him about the island where Stryker keeps the mutants that Creed captures from him. Logan learns about Stryker's real plan, which is to use the powers of the captured mutants to transform Wade, a former Team X combatant, into a new weapon. Logan also learns that Kayla is alive and has been working with Stryker all along. Creed and Logan defeat a transformed Will before Creed parts ways. Stryker takes advantage of Logan's discovery of an injured Kayla to shoot him in the head, wiping out all his memories with an adamantium bullet. Stryker is convinced to walk till his feet begin to bleed by Kayla before she commits suicide by drowning herself in a lake. The gunshot wound heals, but Logan awakens alone and without direction. There is a lot of blood and gore in the game. In addition to the other graphic depiction of Wolverine's healing factor, there are other ways to kill enemies brutally. 3 techniques are used in combat: grabs, light attacks, and heavy assault. The game received praise for its brutality that was in line with the comic book depiction of the character and for its artistic appeal. Still, it received criticism for its lack of replay value, brief campaign, and monotonous action. The game was also a moderate commercial success. Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider was developed by Climax Action and published by 2K Games in 2007. The game is based on the movie by the same name. The game follows motorcycle daredevil Johnny Blaze, who sells his soul to the devil. Vengeance is instructed by Mephisto to deliver the Ghost Rider to him in midair. A scorching vortex to hell is opened as Vengeance grabs Johnny after pursuing him on his own hell cycle. Johnny assumes the Rider persona in a moment of wrath. He finally arrives at the gates of hell. Mephisto, on the other hand, shows up and stops his flight. He informs Johnny that he is losing control over his demons who are leaving hell and wreaking havoc on Earth, and if left unchecked, might bring about the end of the world. The angels of heaven have threatened to annex Mephisto's kingdom. If his army cannot be contained, he enlists the Rider to stop it. When Mephisto orders Vengeance to assassinate Roxanne Simpson and forces Blaze to kill Vengeance, Johnny denies him but eventually accepts. Mephisto dispatched Ghost Rider on his mission in order for the hellfire of his motorcycle to engrave the Graith geoglyph required to summon the portal, so that it would be possible to conjure a portal to hell and bring about the apocalypse. Blackheart, whose body blade was meant to have concealed, can regenerate and flee to locate Ghost Rider and Mephisto. He becomes incredibly powerful immediately, but Johnny manages to take him out. Mephisto then vanishes with Blackheart's body, and Johnny and Roxanne are reunited. The game had good combat sequence, but received moderate reviews because of its repetitive gameplay and average graphics. The game was moderately successful from a commercial standpoint. Ninja Blade. Ninja Blade was released in 2009 and was developed by From Studios. In 2011, a troop of gigantic rats carrying the mysterious hookworm parasite known as Alpha Worm assaulted a tiny community in northern Africa, infecting its residents. Alpha Worm causes their host bodies and brains to change while boosting their strength and durability. In order to stop the spread, the military invades the quarantine area and destroys the MOBA bomb-infected individuals, while the government covers up the occurrence. Military intelligence creates the Guide Containment Task Force using agents from all across the world. A large alpha worm infestation is being controlled in Tokyo 4 years later by a Guide Ninja Squad, including the young Ken, headed by his father Kanbei. Ken pursues and kills an arachne monster after following Kanbei's trail, but after being afflicted by king worms, Kanbei and teammate Kuro decimate the whole unit. A skilled swordsman could only intentionally harm a target like Ken with a clan's ninja blade, as Kanbei does. Ken is sent alone back to the city after a brief recovery to contain the infestation. Although the art style of the game was criticized, it was lauded for its animation. The game's dramatic end boss finishes are sufficient to set it apart a little, but the rest is alright. It is a fun game and not meant for serious gamers. If you enjoyed the God of War clones list, please like our video, and for more interesting videos on other exciting video games. If you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.